So what we have here is a petrol version of the XUV300. Now there's a lot of pressure on this car, on this engine to be specific, because you see the diesel XUV300 really impressed us with its refinement and performance. In fact, under the hood of the Marazzo, that same engine won our Engine of the Year award. And so, well, will this engine live up to that high standard, or will it stand in its shade? That's what we're going to find out. Like the diesel, the petrol XUV300 also comes mated to a 6-speed manual transmission, and in all other respects the two are identical, with both also being offered in all 4 trim levels. Thus, having reviewed the diesel entirely, we'll focus on the petrol engine's performance in this test. The engine is a turbocharged version of the 1.2-litre 3-cylinder petrol unit from the KUV100, which Mahindra says has been thoroughly revised and tuned for duty under the hood of the XUV. Now, being a petrol, you'd expect this to be refined, and well, it largely is. In fact, especially so when you consider that this is a 3-cylinder motor, which is inherently difficult to balance. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a turbocharged engine, and so, well, yes, there is lag. But the power comes in quite early. In fact, by about 1700 RPM, things begin to move. And then when the turbo kicks in by about 2200, it really feels like a second wind rather than turbo lag. And of course, you can then rev it nice and linear all the way to about 5000 RPM, and then it gently rolls into the rev limiter, which is set at around 5800. One complaint is at times the fuel cutoff during throttle liftoff feels a bit lazy. And so, the car still feels like it's being driven for a fraction of a second even after lifting your foot off the throttle pedal. In terms of acceleration, the XUV300 does the 0 to 100 km/h dash in 12.8 seconds. That's quick, but not as quick as the 1-litre EcoSport, which does it in 10.61 seconds. On the whole, power delivery could have been a bit more linear, but the engine can certainly be called a good one. The benchmark, though, for small capacity turbo petrols still remains the 1-litre Ford EcoBoost. Now, as for the rest of the bits like the ride, well, it remains similar to the diesel, which means it's great. One thing that is different though is the steering. Now, both the petrol and the diesel offer you variable steering modes, but it's on the petrol where you'll feel a bigger difference in the weight between the modes. Now, the clutch can be snappy at times at low speeds, but the action is very light, and that, along with the light steering and an easy gear shift, mean this car is pretty handy and easy to drive in traffic. So, does the petrol live up to the very high standards set by the diesel? Well, in a word, yes. But between the diesel and the petrol, well, it's still the diesel that we'd pick. However, don't discount the petrol entirely. Its performance and refinement are good, and you'd save about 50 to 60,000 rupees depending on which variant you pick. Plus, if your running is low and you value that extra bit of refinement, then this should certainly be on your short list. So, just like the diesel, the petrol remains a very firm link in what is a strong chain.